We do got a little divergence working out here. I know what we call double top divergence. It'll be part of the watch list here. Good morning, everyone. And shows going on. RPM, it's a Friday. I'm back on the outside here. It's about 11:19, and it just took a little short here. But this is a strong market, so it's very hard to call those tops. But the one thing I will point out, and again, it's like finding a $20 bill on the table. Take a look at that SPX here for a second. You can see how we came back up here and we tagged that high, double top, one there, one here, and look how we failed here. This rolled back over. Started to see that play out. And even up here, even though it's above 80, the 9.3 here is really showing up. We get a pull back to that 20-period moving average. I think that'd be a nice rotation. Now that doesn't mean we're going to get that. I mean, we had $25 on the trade, and now we have 12. So that's how fast it could come and go. So this is a strong market, a very strong market. You'll be very careful on how long you take and hold on to these things. This is a pretty fast rotation. This is underneath the 80. It's not a like you can see it right here. Market here popping back up. Very strong. I don't know if that's going to even work out. I was trying to get the $20 trade on this one. Damn. There we go. All right. So we're going to take that off here. 37.50 we get out at.
Order filled.
37.50. So I want to take that off just on that fast rotation here. Strong market, fast rotation. That's a nice trade right there. Just taking a look at some of the charts in front of it. Again, that's part of the HPS watch list. We are seeing Gilead here move back up. We got a lot of things here moving today. LYB, we're in that. Linden Bell. We're going to go over all these on the watch list. JBHT, we're going to go over that. Amgen, Rockstar Performance, Capital One Finance, a little follow through. We took profits on that. Google, though, Google breaking down. Let's take a look at the Amazon. Also broke down underneath 1,000. I was guessing that we were going to break down under 1,000. It's not many times we get there, and then people think it's clear sailing. 1,000 is that big number. Lots of times it likes to retest, get down underneath there. And this is exactly what happened here. We cut through 1,000 like nothing. It went right through 1,000. Went down to 995, 994 and change, back up to 997. And that double top divergence here played out, was a golden setup here. We take a look at it. I sent the chart out, put it out on Twitter. I actually took the trade on it, and it was right there. And now we're oversold, so I'm actually looking at the combination of a couple of things here going long, but haven't decided on that yet. We're on the VWAP. Market here breaking down. Well, we got out our SPY calls also right at the highs of the day, right up here. We got out of the SPY call, so that's looking really good. I would not hesitate, and I'm going to actually look at maybe taking some SPY puts here. I think we could actually start to see a pullback after all this news is behind us. We might actually see a big reversal. So I want to do that right now. My call is for a down week next week. And I'll go into more of that down the road. But let's see, we get a good. Let me take a look at some of the options and what they're looking at here. So we're going to be looking at some of the puts. We'll look at the SPY puts, which are trading right around that 244.35 area. Now, different ways you could do this. I want to bring up my TC 2000 chart. I'm going to bring up the SPY. I got to do this fast here. Let me actually go on my other platform here. I don't want to mess around too long here. I do feel like we have a pullback coming, so take a shot on this. The 16th, 244s on the puts. June 16. Dallas. Tried a new restaurant today too. I ended up going up into another part of town. 244, 46. Shoot. 136, 244s, 244 50s, 243s, 50s. I like those. 243s. I'll take a long shot here. Come on! Come on. I hate it. I hate this platform. I'm not gonna give them bad press, but I don't like it. Everything is just froze up on my screen here, and classic. Trying to get into a position short here, and I put the order in, but I can't see if I got it confirmed. All right. Well, let's see if we got through. All right. So I just sent the alert out there, and picked up some puts for next week. I'm still stuck on this screen. I used the other screen here, other computer, free things up. Can't get some of these charts off my screen. I'm going to work on that right now. I put a tracker on this chart just so we could track those going forward into next week. But I am really liking this short. Now, we got a lot of news behind us. I'm really liking this short, so I want to make a point of mentioning that in the room. Hey, Paul, sorry if I'm cutting in or stepping on anybody. I know we're going to get through that issue by getting the Skype up and stuff. But I just want to talk about my my feeling that we have a good pullback in store for us next week. I think a lot of the news is behind us. Then that news, I don't know if this news was the most positive news. I think we're going to reverse on the day, and we're going to continue going lower. I think, for me, you saw the trade. I'm getting the puts. I'd also protect some of the longs. I think we're going to go down next week, or at least early next week, Monday.
Johnny, loud and clear, heard that. Man, appreciate your comments. I definitely don't disagree with that. We ran up today. It's kind of they popped on the news that the Trump stuff's pretty much out and done, and they popped it, made new all-time highs by a pretty good stretch there. And it looks like they decided to reverse it. Everything's overbought and starting to turn over again. So some pullback is probably in order. It makes perfect sense. Thanks for your updates, man, and the trade alert in the box.
Yeah, no problem. Let's see what happens here today. Should be an interesting one. I might even add to this. It's always been a gamble on the short side in this market, but these are the situations where you usually see reversals. There's when there's news out here, market takes off, news is behind you. But you know what? Smelling some downside coming. I'm going to continue on with the watch list. I'll update you anything else I find here.
Rob says you're gonna force him to take some profits. Thanks, Johnny. Good luck with the watch list. Something else I noticed today too. Look at that heat map, and Nasdaq is down pretty big, and the others are still up, but it's all twisted and weird today. It's not a overall rally across everything. It's one of them.
Yeah, I see. Yep, Apple here at lows of the day. Amazon back under $1,000. Things were looking real sweet yesterday, and all of a sudden things could change like that. The wind has changed. Here we come down. Guys, get on board.
Kind of weird things.
Uh-oh. I carried that conversation on the mic there. I apologize. All right. Here we have a 5-minute divergence setting up. Again, we did take a short off of this double top divergence. We ended up taking a short going into the next week on using the SPY puts. And right now we have a short term, we'll call it a 5-minute little divergence here. It looks like a pretty decent one. I'm going to show it to you on the other chart. But you can see that lower low. Now, I could usually spot those on the 1-minute time frame because they're usually an hour apart from each other. So one pivot and then a bounce, and then we come down, we take out the lows, and there's a pretty decent candlestick there. And we approach that 1 hour. So you have just a nice look. A pop, a fast little move back down, then a pop. This divergence looks pretty nice. No position on that other than the short. And we actually have a little trend line here. Let's see if we can actually turn that into something. There's not much there. But this is a good divergence on this one. I should mention that on the show. I just want to mention that 5-minute divergence. You can see it on the 1-minute time frame there. And that 1-minute time frame, when you see a pivot that comes in about 12:35 to 12:40, and then you have a little pop, and then it comes back down quickly. We came down to about, again, 115 to 120, 130, making news lows. That time frame right there, if you see it on the 1-minute time frame, that just type of look right there tends to be a 5-minute divergence on the cash chart. So if you look at the cash chart, you could actually see a nice divergence there. And it's a good shot that this moves up a little off of that.
Hey, thank you, Johnny. Appreciate you pointing that out.
Oh, I thought you were at lunch, Paul. Sorry. I know it's good anyway. Either way. All right. So let's roll into the watch list here. Again, a kind of choppy watch list as I'm watching the markets. Interesting day. Capital One Finance was an HPS setup. We did take profits on it. Did hit its target. Let me bring it up on the screen here. All right. Here you have the alert that went out last week. It was a lower trend line. It was a divergence, which is an important lane divergence. And as you can see, we ran right into our profit target. We took profits on that. So, we'd like to come back, review these stocks. If it does pull back to that lower trend line, maybe sets up another setup for us. I have a feeling we're going to probably, chop around here before heading higher. But the trade is over. No longer in this one. Objective hit, profit zone hit. Now, JP Morgan, another great one. That one also an HPS watch list. And, we were looking at maybe getting the alert down here, what we call a 20 EMA breakdown, channel line bounce. It never did break down under that 20 and just rotated back up. And that's what we're kind of feeling for in the markets because we've been seeing these divergences, that higher low and that lower low on the price. So this divergence here playing out as a breakout of the channel. It still represents an active setup, but really it's not. I mean, it didn't hit its trigger. It didn't hit its buy trigger. It's continuing to push higher. You might be in it either way. And like I said, the banks were set up this week, so looking pretty good on this one. Here we have the JP Morgan again. Wanted to see maybe a buy zone trigger, but it held at 200 period moving average, pushed up here, so not an active setup. And we click on that arrow, you'll see it actually starts to move. It's already taken off to the upside. Here we have AKAM, and it was one of the best bets going into the last week. It popped a little, but just didn't really move too much. Still active. It is kind of extended here, which would be a little bit more concerning now that we have that rotation. We're looking at a very shallow double bottom. We got the initial pop on there, a couple of days of just a little grindage, and then pretty much going sideways to nowhere. Take a look at that 5-minute chart. Actually, NASDAQ here selling off, so this one's getting sold off a little on it too. So you have a 5-minute rotation there. The hourly, again, looks a little negative right now. You actually have a not a real divergence, but close to one. You can see we ran into a little problem there, made a lower high, the higher high. So we are seeing that kind of little divergence there, and downside momentum is on this one. I'll show you the setup on this. And you can see we're chopping around our buy zone. Nothing too special about it right now. It is active. I am holding some, and that's about it. The engulfing pattern is a negative. It's negative right now on the candle, so we'll have to watch that going forward. Here we have Mattel. Mattel still active on the watch list. The one thing we want to talk about Mattel, it was a divergence off of this. We took the move up. It got overbought. We took profits in it, no longer holding it. And it just drifted sideways. It was an effective trade off of this divergence. Remember, the time frame divergence on the daily, whatever time frame you're using, use your the first criteria, first exit scenario could be played out on that rotation of the stochastics as it gets overbought. There's no doubt that this can actually pull back down here and bounce back up, and this might be a longer trend. But again, that is a completed trade. I do believe it is still active on the setup here. But just remember, we took it off, and it didn't get too far. We never hit our target on this yet. It is still choppy, but we did take it off because of the stochastics. Now, that's a rule that you have to understand with the HPS setups. If you get an HPS setup, we have a target zone, but we have a fast rotation where that rotation rotates back up, and technically the criteria tells you to be careful, maybe a pullback coming. That's what we took off. That's why we took it off. It doesn't mean that our target needs to be hit all the time. that's kind of an automated, an automated alert to let you know where the price is when it does hit that. If you need to get out of it, you're not in front of your computer. Here we have Nielsen. Nielsen as another lower trend line bounce. Got an initial bounce and it kind of rotated back down. Holding strength today. You can see the candle. We kind of pierced back into the previous candle's body. We're really holding on to that lower trend line, which is important. And, maybe there is an argument for a little divergence here. Let's take a look at the overall pattern here on Nielsen. You can see the what we were looking at here, the lower trend line. And we tried to push through it, got a nice little bounce, and then kind of came back down to it, and now triggered back down. We didn't hit the stop on this, but we're right on that trend line. So it's a big area right now, big area. If we could hold that trend line to get back up above this, the 3850 area. Really need to hold this trend line, get it back above it, start moving back up into the pattern. And this is at least a good day on that. At least we're trying to do that right now. It's still active. Again, we were looking for maybe a possible reversal candle. Not much showing up there. Here we have Harley Davidson, another HPS setup. And again, if you take a look at that daily chart, and even on the weekly chart, we picked it up off the lower trend line here. And we had a nice pop on it. So we actually took it off. We got in here at 52.35 back here, and we took it off at 53.70 for $1.35. And from that point, and again, you can take a look. The daily hasn't rotated fully, but we pushed up against the 20-period moving average. And that was just around the area that we wanted to take it off. Remember, we talked about that 53.80 level. We took it off at 53.70. And from that 20-period moving average, it did pull back off of that. Now it's still holding on to that setup here. It's almost a double bottom divergence. I still like this. I still like the Harley Davidson down here. We're out of it, but it is still active. It is definitely an interesting one at this point. So we'll continue to watch it. Maybe we'll get back into it next week. I'm seeing a lot of stocks here moving about right now, but let's take a look at that one on the HPS. And this one had a little different trend line on the trading view charts. Either way, you could see, we pushed up to that trend line, pulled back, trying to get back up above it. It does look pretty good, Our original area was perfect. We just about tagged the highs. It was about, where do we get up here? We got up to about 53.97. Our target was 54. It was 3 cents away. 3 cents away. We took it off for a profit. I would consider that a hot dogs, horseshoes and hand grenade type of trade. You get very close, you got to take it off. All right, next one up, we had the Mosaic. Now, I never got into this one. I wanted to put this one on the watch list as a cheapie, just based off of that big candlestick. And also put an alert in here to get a pullback into that candle. Remember how we closed off last week? Closed off like a very big candle. That was on the daily. We said, all right, watch for a pullback. Because I don't, first of all, I'm not a big fan of the Mosaic. It's cheap stock. And the sector's not the best. So I wasn't too confident. I never had this stock. And you could actually see that we did rotate back into our buy zone. And it triggered the buy zone, but from that point on, it just can never really get going. It just came down here, tagged the stop on this to 23.30, and actually popped off of it now. So, you know what? You have that stop. It's kind of, something you have to adjust on your own. But, we like to pay attention to the candlestick stops, and sometimes it come down and chop around there just to flush it out, and then, boom, it moves back up. So even though this officially stopped out, you can't do anything about it. I mean, it officially hit the stop on that. But no position in this, and probably won't see it on the watch list again. We were really banging the table on Under Armour. Decided to get back in it. Couple of times we were in here, then we got in, and then it's just starting to take off. As you can see, we put those arrows in here and looking for rotation. It actually continues to look good. Definitely continues to look good, and even though we are extended here in a way, we got out at 18.75. It's at 19.98. It went up another $1, but we got $1 out of it on the trade. And our secondary target, I mean, we talked about it this week, our secondary target on Under Armour is $20. And I believe that was, if not hit today, we're about 2 cents away from it. High was, it did hit the target at $20. So it did hit the target at $20. And it did hit its, it did hit its target on the HPS.
CS Tradeometer oversold.
There you are. Look at that. So that's a great setup. Look at the nice move. Again, HPS. It's up against your little resistance. The base is nice. Like I said, I think there's a better shot of this actually breaking out and moving higher overall. But our trade is completed on this. Here's Granger. Now here's one that's an interesting stock. Nice pullback. There was a nice underlying trend line on that. Pretty big stock. Originally, we got into this, and I picked up 40 shares at 189. It was off of this trend line, and it broke down. It broke down here, but it only had very small shares. It only had 40 shares, and it broke down. So I added at 171, and we brought our cost average in really, really nice. And then it bounced. So we took some off at 175. Took those 30 shares that we added to it for a bit, nice little pop, and we ended up holding on to the 40 shares, and we're still holding on to 40 shares. 189.17, 189.17, and we have a divergence. We have this higher low, we have the lower low on the price, and a pretty decent candle today. Not on a lot of volume, but enough big enough candle to make it look interesting going into next week. Now this one did effectively hit the stop on this, so you probably got that alert, and this is exactly this was our second alert on this. And again, the stop is very, very tight on these. These are very tight stops on this. You can see we actually pushed up, hit our trigger, pulled back, chopped around the stop for a second, and pushed back up, actually closed above it. And we tend to like, if there was a way of actually, going back, and when you're looking at the HPS, make sure your close on those dailies. The stop here really represents the closing price of the candle time frame that you're using. A lot of times you'll come down, pop through it, and then close back above it. And a lot of times you'll see that with the moving average or individual support resistance channel lines, etc. If there's a major level, we'll test it, we'll close above it, and then we'll continue to push back up towards it. So this one's still active. It still looks pretty good. We'll reset this. I think we should, because we're still holding on to it, and it still looks like the buy zone's right above us. I would go ahead and reset this with the same setup, with the buy trigger at 177 and change, and with a profit zone at 182 to 185. So we'll do that. Next trade we're going to look at is the GP. Now we got out of this one also. We took it off. Again, we took it off on a rotation trade, and we just closed it out with a nice profit on it. And it's pulled back and chopped around. And the truth is, it still could be considered an active of a stock. But we closed it out. We called it a day on the profit on this. And we haven't looked back, so I haven't really adjusted anything on it. We got $1.15. We got $1 out of that trade, and we took it off at $23.80. $24 was our target. Like I said, you get close to that, but your oscillator, your indicators are saying, "Hey, watch this area. We want to be very careful." As you can see here, we had a 5-minute rotation. That's why we took it off here, right up here, right around here. We took it off based off of this rotation here, and sure enough, it pulled back. Did hold it, did start to turn back up. It is chopping around. It's not looking that bad, but the trade was an effective trade, and it worked out good. And this is all based off of this big reversal candle. That was a nice reversal candle. And this is a REIT. This is a real estate REIT. It's not the most exciting sector to be in right now, but because of the setup, qualified for an HPS setup, and it actually did work out. And looking at it right now, that's actually holding strength. It's actually pointing in the right direction. Stochastics holding the 20-period moving average. Everything looks good. It's definitely a possibility of a pop. I'm actually seeing Macy's here move up here on my board today, even though I'm not interested in it. I'm seeing a little upside on Macy's. Look at that Macy's chart. Pushing a little bit higher. All right, here's one that we recently just got into it for the first time, and it's working out good. It is let's take a look at it. Look at this. It was a lower trend line bounce. We came down to our buy zone. It popped, and it came back to the lower trend line. So that's where we decided to jump all over this. And right now it's active. It look at that trend line. Look at how we tagged that trend line. It was 78.05. We got in at 80 and change. The fact is, it does look really good here, and it's on its way to the profit zone. Everything here looks pretty good. I want to take a look at this on the other chart here. This is Lindendale Basel Industries, LYB. And here you have another good example of this downward channel. So we've tracked this stock again. Very nice. There was a little reversal candle. Volume was pretty good. Nice pop today. We'll see how far we get on this. I think we have more upside here. I think next week we push up. We get up to the, let's see our first level here, 84 and change. Let's see where our target is on this. Our target. What was our target on this? It should have been, hopefully, 84 and change. 83 to 86. So perfect. Target's at a perfect level, 83 to 84, which represents that upper trend line. 5-minute alert here. We got a 5-minute Rambot just showed up on my alerts. The buy signal 158. Now remember, we are short the market with puts. With puts. Those puts we got at 88 cents. 7 days to expiration. We got 5 of them. Take a look at the chart here. We could actually bring up the SPY. Put them on here just to track them. So you could see the and you can see where oh, let's go to the 1-minute chart actually. And let's go to the we're up at 315. How much are we up on it? $315. That's pretty good. Let me bring up the option chain on this. This is tough because here we are. So effectively almost double on it right now. Almost double on this. That's a tough call here. We could go for the big one. We could definitely go for the big one here. Just under $300 on that. Just under $300. Market here, the S&P has gone negative. It has gone negative. Expected to go negative, but we are getting a little bounce. We do have a 5-minute, what we call a 5-minute Rambot, which represents a 5-minute divergence setup, and we're going to take a look. I want to take a look at that. We usually color those yellow on the in the room here, like that. So this is not a bad setup here. Take the profits on this would be just a rock star position here. But again, if we actually gap down Monday or move down further Monday, then we're definitely going to be cashing in. So it's a big call at this point. Big call at this point. Let me touch base on the to the members here. Hey, in regards to the excuse me if I'm butting in or talking over anybody. I'm in the middle of doing a video and I'm talking about the SPY puts we have going into next week. They're worth about $300 now. You know, we already almost got a double on it, and that's from earlier this morning when we took those SPY puts. So, you know, this is a tough call here. You either carry them over. I expect Monday to maybe be a little downside, or you take profits right here and see if the market bounces and maybe take that short into the close. Either way, you know what? It's so important to take profits in this market, and especially this market that has this never say die attitude. So a 5-minute divergence like we get right here, 5 minutes, as you can see, you know, I don't know if you could see it, but Paul's showing it on his screen also that he has a lower trend line. It's a nice lower trend line, but that is a 5-minute Rambot, and that's one of the most powerful signals. Not to mention we had a tradeometer a little bit before that. So this is a really good divergence signal. Just wanted to point that out. If you do have profits on that, you can lock it in and look for a better position later on. Over and out.
Hey, thanks, Johnny. While we're sitting there listening to you, and you were getting to that so important subject of, you know, when do you decide to take profits? I was saying he's going to say he's going to lock it in. I think it's a smart thing to do, especially since 60's been oversold.
Yeah, with the.
Hey, that's an amazing trade no matter what happens, you know. So, congratulations on that, man. Good call.
Yeah, I hear him on the radio here talking about and I'm looking at it too. The Dow is down almost 1.5%, almost down 100 points. I mean, the NASDAQ is down almost 100 points, down about 90 points right now. And the Dow is up about 70 points. The S&P is flat as a pancake. So you definitely see a rotation out of tech. That those top-heavy FANG stocks that really have propped this market higher. Seeing some good selling in it today. Amazon here near the lows, all the way down to 980. Apple down to 149. And we have other stocks there actually looking pretty good. Again, the REIT here looking pretty good. The drugs looking really good, and some other ones. But we're going to continue on with the watch. I haven't pulled the trigger on taking these puts off. I have a feeling we're going to have a down week next week, so I am thinking of holding this, but it's not the business decision. You know, it's, again, you have to treat your trade like a business. I didn't expect to get such a fast profit on this. It was a pretty good one. Let's take a look at some other stocks. All right, I've been commenting on the show here. We've been doing a lot of trading today. So we just took off those. We just took off the SPY puts here. So we had we had a discussion on the air. We picked up 5 this morning at 88 cents. We sold 2 at $1.83, up 95 cents, so a profit on 190. Then we sold the rest, the last 3, at $2.40 for a gain, 440 and change after commissions. That's a plus $1.52 on those, and that is over 100% on that. Well, how much is it? Over almost. Let me double check what the exact level. I will get the exact percentage on that. We got it for 177% on that trade. 177% on your money on that trade. Picked it up here right after 12:30. Sold it 2 times here. One there, and we're done. President's on now speaking. We got a nice bounce. Decent reversal candle. I am expecting some downside next week, so maybe we'll let's see how far this thing bounces. If we even do bounce, I have a feeling we're going to be heading lower, though. So, I think it was good teamwork. Good teamwork involved in, discussing the importance of taking profits. Even though I do think this market moves a little bit lower. Can't take that, That's perfect. Perfect. $630. All right, well, back to our watch list here after we finally got out of all those puts. The Lindendale Basel Industries here, still looking good. Just off of 82, again, approaching its target. We could even have some of it. It's interesting. Look at the pop we're getting here. Boy, did we thread the needle again on getting out of our puts, getting in them and getting out of them. Feels pretty good. The some other setup.
Johnny, excellent exit, man, on those puts.
Hey, thanks. That was I'm excited about it. Just thanks. All right. Oh, what am I doing here? 47. All right. So we're looking at the continue on the HPS and stocks for next week. A very choppy HPS watch list.
Tick alert.
A lot of things going on today. A lot of news. And again, going into next week, it should be volatility seems to be picking up a little here. I haven't checked the VIX today. That's also another interesting trade that people are starting to pay attention to. Let's just take a look at it. All right, let's take a look at the overall this index here. And not a bad day. Not kind of an engulfing pattern. Doesn't It's interesting here. We look at the VXX. I like to trade the VXX ETF, futures ETF. You do get those pops every so often, but something that continually degrades and just decays. So you got to be in at the right time, and is this the right time? Is this a pullback that's about to happen? Does this spike back up above $15? Maybe even up to $20? Who knows? It's an interesting trade. It really is. To look into it a little bit more. It's actually a little divergence too. We took out the lows. We closed higher. We're holding up there. I mean, it's not something I trade. It's definitely a higher risk trade. But one way of trading this, it looks interesting. There's some other ones we want to go over though. Let's continue on the watch list. All right, we are in JBHT, JB Hunt, trucking stock. Just to give you an update on this. Holding 70 shares, up about less than $1, but we're up on it. Again, this was a classic example of an HPS setup, which recognizes good setups. The criteria here, or the HPS playbook plays, and X marks the spot, a rising trend line, a lower trend line. X marks the spot. We actually came down to it, and now pushing back up into it. So this is fine. It continues to move higher. Our target up there looks good. Nothing wrong with that. Let's take a look at a different chart on this. Here's your hourly, and hourly is looking like it's holding that trend line, holding a 20-period moving average and a nice rotation. I think everything here looks good for a follow-through on JBHT. The daily, again, slow grind, back above that trend line. We are a little extended here. That's the issue. But overall, not bad at all. Still looking good. All right, just placed another trade alert in the box, and we're going to take a look at this one. I was looking at the VIX. We were just looking back at the VIX on both the daily, which is down here, and again, this is definitely a higher risk trade. The volume is up a little. There's a potential for the weekend trade. Maybe do we have a big pop in this? Maybe. Yeah, I just picked up 4 VIX calls. They're pretty cheap, 63 cents. So, not paying a lot up for it, and then hopefully to get another great trade on that. So it's been posted in the room for the members. You should have got it by now, and you're getting this on the video anyway. So we're tracking it on this chart also. You'll be able to watch it. The VIX here is the Volatility Index, and and I haven't traded in a while. I usually trade the options off the VXX, but you could trade the VXX itself as a like a stock. It's trading about $13, so I'm trading the calls off of it. So if the market pulls back, the VIX, the VXX will move higher. So we're looking for this trade to be kind of a hedge for the market to pull back. And as you can see, the market here pulling back right now. 24.28. We'll just go to that 1-minute chart on the VIX and see if there's a reaction on it to give us a better view of how that performs with the market here. So you can see the market here pulling back, and all of a sudden the VIX here is starting to move up a little. A couple candles right here. And as the market popped, remember this is the overall market. The market was selling off all day, and it went from, look at this thing, $13.90 up to $14, and then the market just bounced off of the lows where we took our profits on the puts, and the market's bounced, and with the bounce, the VIX came back. So now we're looking for the market to continue to back down, or at least take a position into next week, and we'll see if this continues to pop back up here. Let's revisit Harley Davidson here. Harley Davidson actually holding that trend line pretty good, and a little divergence here. I'm kind of liking this here again. Lower trend line bounce. We got at it for a small little profit. It's come back, but it seems to be holding strength here, and it's it's a decent divergence. It's kind of a little double bottom divergence. Nice crossover. I'm gonna probably get back in here just for a few, maybe 100 shares here. I'm liking it. All right, that's what we're gonna do right now. All right, we're back in that. AMD here, unbelievable, nice run.
NQ tradeometer overbought.
Now we have a little retracement trend line here, a little trend line coming back up to the 200 period moving average. Previous close, the main pivot's up there. We've been trading around that pivot a lot the last week. Under Armour here through 20. I think that's it. All right, so let's see what else we have. All right, you can see the setup there. I think we can make an alert on that too. All right, as we wind down the watch list, again, very busy day, so I was kind of helping out on the air and doing the watch list. So it is a little cut up, a little jumbled. But either way, still got good setups, and we still got more to go. And I want to put another video out after this one, so watch for that one also. But we're going to review a couple of stocks that we're watching on our focus list, the equity brands. We bought this one off this reversal candle. I mean, I wouldn't chase it here, but look at the move it made. I mean, there is certain setups we call playbook plays that we want to wait for and take, and that's the whole concept behind HPS. So, I'm just going down a list of stocks in my final rotation. I have a bunch of notes and stuff, and I write them down, and sometimes I have to go back to see why we have them down. Someone might have mentioned them. There might have been insider buying. Also, big shout out to Tight Stops. Great calls on insider purchasing. We traded the Kite Pharmaceutical. We traded the Juno. How much money we made on that? We actually got in on this move here, and we took it off on the gap up the following day. And since then, it's been selling off. So, the chart tells a different story for what we actually traded on it, and that was a news event or an insider purchase event. And same thing. Some other ones, the SBH, a recent one. Look at that one. Continue to push. So we're going to look for some more good setups from him next week. And, we continue to just rotate back into the ones that are setting up in our favor. Like I said, I got to get you a chart on the Harley Davidson. But I want to go with this one as the, kind of a nice divergence with a stop underneath that recent low area. You could probably, I would say conservative 51.40 would be a good one. 51.40 would be a nice one. Everything looks pretty good, and this one has the potential for news too. There's always an activist out there for Harley Davidson. And I bring something to the table. And just mention the FANG stocks today: Amazon, AMZN. Look at that candlestick, big smackdown. Facebook, FB. Big smackdown. This was definitely a rotation out of the FANG stocks this morning. Even Apple here, big candlestick all back down to the 50. The market ended up here positive on the Dow. Nasdaq was down 113, and the S&P was only off 2. So really clear cut, rotation here, and that could be a follow through going into next week. These big stocks, or it's a one-time event. But, typically you get this big volume and something like this. There's going to be a lot of talk about this over the weekend. It'll be interesting to see how it sets up. I'm not in any of the FANG stocks right now, so it's not really affecting me. And the other stocks seem to be doing their own thing. Like I said, the S&P and the Dow are acting like a normal day. It's really the money just flew out of the big tech stocks, the big ones. And we'll see where that ends up going forward. Google down under $1,000. It's $100,000. That was actually the one I was looking for, was the Amazon back under $1,000. That was trading up at 1,016 or so, 1,010. It's at 977 now. I'm sure Anthony's all over that. We had a big flush here. Again, big flush, a nice bounce at the end of the day. We know about the VIX, and we did a great trade on that. Let's just, again, like I said, just want to follow up on a couple more stocks. A fast scan here of some potential bouncers. Now, Sigma Jewelers, we've been following it but not trading it. Mosaic here was a recent HPS setup on this little divergence, and it kind of came back, and now it really is showing that divergence. So it's funny. It was like, this is the reason I don't trade this type of stock. It just sometimes it gives you a false signal. But something to watch next week with a nice candlestick bounce and everything. We had a divergence back here, which led to a nice move. So this actually does look like a much healthier divergence versus this crappy thing that was happening back here. Which was just barely a little dip in that. And we did get a pop on it, but that was about it. But this is much better on the divergence side, but I'm refusing to put that on the watch list. But you can definitely trade it. Looks good. PXD, again, you can see a slight divergence there. These are some other ones. The GWW, we talked about that. I actually holding some of that, and I think that gets up to our target. Let's see what that is. People's Bank already moving. Yeah, these are all moving nice. Linden Bell, again, we got into that one off that lower trend line. We have a nice profit on it. We're going to continue to hold on to it. Looks like it's going to hit its target next week. Fifth Third, Bancorp, not interested. Those banks, remember all those banks were showing that same type of pattern. We were making those lower lows and the higher lows. And that's where we took the Capital One Finance trade on. That same type of setup. They all got into moves. Goldman Sachs got the moves. Just taking a fast scan here. And like I said, I got another video coming up for you. So we're going to talk more about the overall markets. BB&T, another one, given that divergence. Goldman Sachs, again, we saw that one, the divergence. All these popping on that. These could be, definitely could be where the money's going to flow. Ralph Lauren. CHW, nice divergence. It seems to be holding up pretty good. I do like that one too. IBM here. Argument there. GE, pointed out that divergence back there, an argument for some upside there. The biotechs were looking pretty good. Nice pop today on the Biogen, Amgen. Gilead's not really doing much, though. Mylan Labs, nice little bounce today. Amgen, there it is. And remember, we ended up selling Amgen this morning. So let me go back, and I didn't even mention that. I don't think I mentioned that the whole time. We got in on Amgen. We got 4 points on it, so 4 points, so about 160 area. And just liked it. Just liked the rotation. The rotation was on our side. We got that lift. Not much else. I mean, it's a trend line retracement. I wouldn't push it too far here if you're still holding it. This was a nice retracement. The stochastics turned back up. We just got on board, and it felt good. So we're out of that now. And again, like I said, the Capital One Finance, same thing. This is a pattern that I have never, you don't see it around too often. It's a special lane divergence, George lane divergence. We have a series of lower lows and a series of higher lows, but their second and third high. Well, we're going to actually go from he usually normally uses on 3 consecutive lower lows. And then we have the 3, where we're going to call this one, and this one, because it's kind of a choppy session there. But we're looking at this one, and this one. And this one was a low, this was a higher low, and this was a lower low than the higher low, but higher than the lower low, if that makes sense. That's the setup. So it's a really good setup. It's easy enough to identify. and it's inside of a channel and a wedge, so we had that breakout, and it was just a great trade. So, you know, a playbook play is a playbook play. All you have to do is wait for them to set up, or wait for me to bring them to you, which we did on that one, and many of these other ones. General Motors was one, actually, not that long ago. Same thing, same exact thing. Here's your low, the low, the lower low, the lower low, but the lower low, but the higher, the lower, you know, this should have been a higher low compared, but it's a lower low than that, but higher than this one. That's the same type of divergence we look for. And a channel and a breakout, now a flag. So these are all looking good. Pay attention to that, you know, seeing those set up there. To pay attention to them a little bit more. JBHT, still looking good. Discovery is an interesting one. And I think that's it. I want to get started on the other video. I have some educational stuff I want to get to you. All right. So that's it. I'm talking about best bets next week. I am kind of thinking we have a little downside early in the week. We did add to got back into Harley Davidson. I do like that divergent on that. And like I said, what caused the market to feel real weak today was the tech FANG stocks. If that continues, we might see these other stocks continue to run. So the ones that are still active continue to be active. They still are working their patterns. Under Armour hit its target today. I mean, we have to really let some of these stocks reset if we're going to go long. Right now they're extended. The market is kind of set up here. The sinking tide might bring down some of these ships if we do have that next week. Not a guarantee, but I think we're going to start hearing about a lot of Fibonacci talk about the extensions and the candles and you know, like we identified the big thing today, and I'll go over that in the next video, is the divergence. First thing out of the gate, about 10 o'clock, I said there's a big divergence here on a 5-minute. Lots of times this will represent the biggest move of the day. So we had to take a look at the SPX there one more time. And here was that double top divergence right here. And that was the biggest move of the day right there. It was a buy divergence back here. It was really nice. Nothing else there showing up. So we'll wait till next week, and if we get a nice setup again, a double bottom divergence, we'll take it the other way. And we took this with SPY puts. And again, that was one of the best trades I've had in a long time. That was a rock star trade. Made over $500, and we invested. What did we get? We got 5 puts at 80 cents. 300. Yeah, it was a grand slam. Grand slam on that one. All right. So I'm sorry the video is a little long. I actually edit it now, so I'll chop it up a little smaller for you, and we'll see you in the markets on Monday. Keep an eye out for the other videos.